Action fanatics, welcome to another edition of the Bulletproof Podcast, and help me welcome back to the show the Toyman, DePetrillo.
Hello, back again for another walk down memory lane for an old martial arts favorite, or should I say a cable staple of the 80s here today on the Bulletproof
Yeah,
Podcast.
you got a break from me on our last episode. I do want to thank Chad and Ryan for joining me to talk Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. So if you missed out on that, check it out in the archives. But the Toyman is back, and we're going to be talking about Gymkata. But before we talk about that, we are now just days away, Chris, from Actionversary, the month-long celebration of 10 years of Bulletproof Action. It all kicks off on the 1st of August with a review of Delta Force 2, The Colombian Connection. I've also got a brand new feature that's going to be debuting in August, World's Most Dangerous. And the first,
Oh, it's not Action Jam 2?
well, we should have another Action Jam, but that's already debuted. This is a brand new feature, World's Most Dangerous, and I'm going to be talking about the world's most dangerous parking garages, something we've discussed many times on this show and many times on the site. And I'm very excited about that. I have been working on that for quite some time. It's ready to go. We're also going to have a lot of other special features going on. But you've just been a very busy man. Let's not discount what's been happening this month of July. You've been very busy with some series debuts and one wrapping up for the season.
Yeah, I mean, not just for the month of July, but really it was kind of my work for the site was condensed into last week
Yes,
because we knew going into the month of July, we had the season finale of The Boys coming up. And we had the relaunch or the return of Cobra Kai for its final season. Those first 5 episodes were dropping, and it all happened on the same day. So even though
of
No
course.
Surrender Cinema was scattered apart by several days, I did spend Thursday watching The Boys, watching all of Cobra Kai, and then over the weekend went back and watched all of Cobra Kai with the family again after I had already rewatched The Boys the second time as I wrote that review. So I kind of double dipped in a matter of hours, all of those episodes of those shows. But those are both available in No Surrender Cinema. Kind of a change of pace because usually with No Surrender Cinema, I like to mix it up and maybe do something more recent and like a classic Kung Fu or something from the 80s and 90s DTV era. But we had all new content for No Surrender Cinema this month, the finale of The Boys, along with a summary of what went down in season 4, which is, as we know now, the next to last season. And I summarized my thoughts on Cobra Kai, which unfortunately we are nearing the end, and those first 5 episodes definitely set up some intriguing possibilities for the remaining 10 episodes that'll be coming later this year and early next year.
I have still not watched Cobra Kai, so maybe by the time this drops, I will have watched it. But I guess there's really no rush either, since again, there's not going to be any more until November. So as long as I get to them before November, I should be good. Uh, yeah. So you've been busy. These streamers, they don't talk to me. They don't clear their schedule with mine and yours. They really should, because we don't need everything piled up like that. But that's how it happens sometimes. So uh,
Well, they probably just assume we're going to fall down the Tubi rabbit hole again, or I'm going to pull something out of thin air and remind you of it, and one of us is going to track it down on, you know, YouTube or Tubi or something. So, all this new content, and don't forget, we were just talking about how, one of our staff members is currently enjoying Deadpool and Wolverine.
yes, as we
So,
record,
a lot of new stuff hitting right
that is
now.
why Ryan has not joined us for this episode, because he's at the movie theater. Why Chad isn't here is anybody's guess, but that's all right. Everybody will be involved in Actionversary next month. So again, stay tuned for that. As we talked about in prior episodes, the big post for the month will be our Bruce Exploitation countdown, and some special guests lined up to be a part of that. It's all going down. Check it out, bulletproofaction.com. But you know what? Actionversary isn't the only big thing happening in the world, Chris, because as this drops, the Olympics have started.
Indeed, they have.
The
Had a very close basketball game the other day. The U.S. team only winning by a point. That was a bit of a nail biter that I caught most of the game of.
Yeah. I mean, the world is watching. The world is watching, and that is why we decided what better movie to cover than a movie that featured an actual Olympian? We're talking about Gymkata. And this one, it's been
And you're talking about Kurt Thomas more specifically.
more specifically, yes. He is the former Olympian in question. He was in the 1976 Olympics. Uh, so yeah, and I don't think he didn't win gold there, but he was in it. He won gold in other things. He's a champion gymnast, and he is the star of Gymkata, which was released on May the 3rd, 1985. One of my all-time favorite years in all of pop culture. And for God's sake, this is the third movie this year we've covered, directed by Robert Klaus.
Yeah, and more specifically, you and I discussing China O'Brien 1 and 2 right here on the Bulletproof Podcast. And I would like to make a note. I mentioned this to you off air several days ago, but we had a fun outing up at the Cena household 2 weeks ago. It was a
Right.
fun cookout, and I found out that Mr. Cena, John Cena Sr., and his girlfriend Moniz. They are subscribers to the Bulletproof podcast and really enjoyed our episode on China O'Brien too. So we got a specific compliment about a specific episode from the fabulous John Cena Sr. and Moniz. So a big thank you to them for listening,
Yes.
and hopefully they're listening to this
Thank
one.
you very much. I was very happy to hear that. I was just going to go on social media and say John Cena approves of the Bulletproof podcast,
And you wouldn't
and
be
not
wrong.
put the senior part, and just be like, yeah, I wouldn't be wrong, and just be like, John Cena's all about the Bulletproof podcast. Why aren't you? You can hear us if you just listen. But yeah,
That's right. You can't see us, but you can
right,
hear us.
right. So yes, Robert Klaus, he's in everything. Obviously, most famously, Enter the Dragon. It's like, oh, you did Enter the Dragon. You could now do any martial arts movies that Warner Brothers decides to get involved with in some way, and that's how the. But this was really an MGM one, which made me think. I'm a little surprised that Kurt Thomas never got hooked up with our good friends at Canon. Like, do you think he? Do
You
you
would
think
think
he
that
auditioned?
they would exploit
Do you think
anything.
he auditioned for American Ninja?
I don't think so. I think that if I mean, we'll talk about it, but Jim Cotta feels like the type of thing that Canon would have come up with, not
Right.
MGM.
I mean,
Um,
it's
you know,
so canony, and yeah, they would have. I mean, who better to be an American Ninja than an American you would think, or even if he just was like kind of in like that Keith Vitale spot from Revenge of the Ninja, just somebody who obviously had some legit credentials that they could help along in some way. I don't know
like the best buddy, the sidekick.
exactly. Something. I mean, again, I don't want to take Duty's job because Michael Dudikoff, you are the American Ninja, my friend, and I will always bow to your awesomeness, especially your hair. But
What if they put Kurt Thomas in American Ninja 2?
doing what? Just being one of the
One of the
yeah, I was
Marines,
gonna say one of the Marine. Yeah, could have.
hooked up with Larry Poindexter and our buddies over there.
Mm-hmm. American Ninja 2 is so perfect as it is. You probably really shouldn't tamper with it. But let's get into this movie because it starts off real kind of low key. Those opening credits are not like, you kind of used to some high energy or some kind of like big fanfare, but it's very low key opening credits for Gymkata.
Yeah, it definitely delivers the gym part of Gymkata because you don't really feel like you're about to watch an action adventure movie.
No, and then we kind of get into a little bit more once then we see Kurt's Jonathan Cabot doing his routine, and then it's interspersed with horses running, and it's back and forth until we just cut to the horses. And there's a bunch of guys on horseback with Zamir leading the charge because here's another one, third movie this year, Richard Norton, but this time not a very nice man.
No, but the whole horseback thing and Richard Norton obviously is kind of known for his beard and his silky smooth hair. Didn't you kind of get like a Sheriff of Nottingham vibe of Richard Norton riding up on a
Yeah,
horse? Like again, this didn't feel like we were about to watch a movie with martial arts. This felt like we were watching, an episode of Robin Hood on
right,
television or
right after
something.
Nitro. Um, yeah. So he's leading the charge. They're going after, we really don't know who it is, but we now know who it is. It's Colonel Cabot, who is the father of Jonathan Cabot. But, the first time you watch this, you don't know that. You're like, who the hell's this guy? But
Just a random guy.
yes, just as far as you know, he's a random guy, and he's got to go across this gorge. And there's a rope bridge. It's really just ropes that you have to kind of shimmy across one way or the other. So Cabot makes it to the ropes. He's on, makes his way across. He's basically a sitting duck, or more specifically, a hanging duck. And Zamir pulls out his bow and arrow and shoots him. And that sends Cabot, he obviously loses his grip and plunges to the gorge below. And again, first time watching it, if it's your first time watching it, you got to think, he dead. True or false?
Down into the bottomless
Right.
pit or washed away, whatever's
Right.
down there.
Yeah, there could be alligators down there. I don't know. They were there in Temple of Doom. They were just waiting for people to fall off that bridge. And that was a bridge.
That's true, yeah. We don't know what type of wildlife, animals, we don't know what's going on in this region
Right.
of the world. We haven't been fully exposed
We
to
don't
it.
even know, yeah, really what era.
We don't really know where he
Like
is.
this could be at any time in the world. We could have went back in time.
See, it could have been Robin Hood times. See
Exactly.
that?
Uh so now we go back to Jonathan's routine and the crowd. They're just eating it up. They love this gymnastics superstar, Jonathan Cabot. And then he's done, and there's Paley, and he's kind of telling him something, and we now find out it's about his dad. And they go back to the house. I guess is this Jonathan's house? Is this just a house they have set up for him to train in?
Like a safe
Yeah,
house or
I'm
something.
imagining that's probably more it.
That's what it felt like, yeah.
Um,
Like an off the grid,
right, they're off
safe
in
house.
the woods somewhere where no one's going to be bothering them or know what there's going on, because for the next 2 months, Kurt is going to have to undergo training like he's never had before, because he's going to go to Parmistan, where his father was, to compete in the game, and that's what his father was doing, was competing in this game. And to help him, he's going to have a Western trainer and an Eastern trainer. They're played by Sonny Barnes, and we talked about it. What a familiar face this man is. Tadashi Yamashita.
From our dear favorite American Ninja that we mentioned just a few moments ago.
I'm from Parma, not Parmistan. Parmistan isn't
Well, no one's from
right, because it's
Parmistan
not
because
real.
it doesn't
Right, but
exist.
Parma does
Yeah.
exist. One of the Cleveland's biggest suburb is Parma, home of the Miz.
Now, is there a guy there with the nickname Parma
I
Stan?
would imagine at some point.
Is there like a local legend
Not
of anybody named
not
Stanley that we can kind of throw that
not
out
that I
to?
know of, but I guess I could lie and say yes. But Parmesan is very important to the Star Wars satellite program of the U.S., which was all the rage in the 80s. Let me tell you what.
Oh, everybody loves Star Wars. I mean, not me. I still
Ah,
haven't watched the originals in
jeez,
years and
you
never
got
saw any of
such
the
a
new
bad
ones.
attitude. Um, so Parmesan would be the perfect spot for this Star Wars satellite station, kind of early detection type thing. But they need to get in good with the Khan who runs Parmesan. And but if you show up to Parmistan, you have to play the game. You can't just like, hi, I'm here from the next country over and wanted to bring you some pierogies or something. No, there was none of that. It was you.
No, it's all about the game and how you play
Thank you very much. And the
it.
Khan is in charge, which is, the game should know about that too. Um, he's in charge.
Is that Tony
No, I'm
Khan?
talking about Nick Khan. Uh, they were
Oh,
just
okay.
in London, from what I saw. WrestleMania in London. Are UK wrestling fans out there? Get ready. Get your money saved because those tickets ain't gonna be cheap. Um,
I mean, if Taylor Swift concerts are any indication, it's cheaper to go overseas to see her than to see her domestically. So who
that
knows?
is
WrestleMania might be a bargain if they head
maybe,
overseas.
maybe you're right. Um, we found out about the Khan. Zamir is his right hand man, and the intelligence they're gathering is that he's trying to take over and push the Khan out. Um, and where do you think they got this information? Well, almost directly from the source because it's from the Khan's daughter, Princess Rubali. And she's going to be there watching and overseeing Jonathan's training. And that's basically what she does. She just like looks out the window while he trains. She's not very hands on for most of this training.
And did you hear what's his name? Paley's excuse for why she's so silent? He's like, well, her mother's Indonesian.
Yeah, that
So what does that have to do with anything?
perfectly. Yeah, I don't know. Do we have any?
Good old-fashioned 80s
I
xenophobia, I guess.
guess so. And why didn't they just make up the mother's background too? I mean, they made up Parmistan. Why not? So she's there, and the training. They talk about the training. There's something about all of Gymkata that I know. If they mention it, it's gonna happen. There's no like teases and then it doesn't happen. They say he's gonna.
No, it's
They say
pretty
yeah, he's gonna
straightforward.
train. He's training. I mean, we're like maybe 15 minutes in, and we're getting training montages. And he's doing a variety of things. He's sparring. He's chopping wood. I know your favorite is
And let it be known that for an 80s
yeah,
film involving the martial arts, there are no like awesome training montages with an awesome
no,
soundtrack. Like the montages are literally just like, him walking on his hands up the
yeah,
stairs
with
and,
the
trying
gooch
to sweep
cam.
his trainers off the feet. Yeah, yeah, we get some unfortunate close-up shots and whatnot. But yeah, there's no Rocky Four. There's no bike race from Rad. There's no nothing like that. It's just kind of like, hey, I'm training, very matter of
Right, and
factly.
thankfully he had on some quality drawers because his nuts didn't pop out. But know what's driving Jonathan nuts? It's that silence.
The process.
It's the silence. He can't do it. So he does this whole bit where he's flipping, and he's basically being both of them in a conversation, trying to break the ice. And it seems to work because then he just goes up to her and kisses her. And that's when he learns a valuable lesson. A lesson that one Stone Cold Steve Austin lived by. Don't trust anybody.
DTA. And let it be known that when you said he was flipping, not like he was flipping for her
No,
metaphorically or figuratively, or he was flipping out because she wasn't talking. No, Jonathan Cabot, the hero of the movie, decided that the best course of action when he couldn't take it anymore would be to do a gymnastic flip to basically see from his point of view to her perspective, and he would flip back
right.
and forth
Then
every
he would
time, having a
do a lady
conversation with himself.
voice. I mean, what a fine actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was showing off. I mean, he was peacocking a little bit there. Like, hey, this is what I'm. He playing to his strengths. I can flip and stuff. You should want me. I mean, he probably, the crowd loves him, so he's, probably a bit of an egomaniac. I would suggest. Paley is back to brief Jonathan Ribali, who now they're like kind of making goo goo eyes at each other, and and Paley's like, "Hey, are you paying attention? You have to go to Karabal on the Caspian Sea." And your point of contact will be Colonel Mackle, who we find out is known as the Stork. And again, sure enough, Mackle is there to greet them when they arrive. And we find out some interesting things. No guns allowed in Parmistan, Chris. Very,
I guess they don't have Second Amendment rights
very
in
Enter the
Parmistan.
Dragon like. No guns. US SEALs too, also. No guns. Always interesting when they throw that gimmick in there.
Oh, U.S. SEALs too. Now, there's a movie I have not thought about in a while. Yeah.
We talked about it with the man himself, Michael Worth, in the archives, folks. Check it out. So yeah, so we get some non-firearms weapons demonstrations by Mackle, and then we find out tomorrow is when you'll start your way to Parmistan. First, you'll go by pack mule, then you'll get on a raft. But that's tomorrow. Tonight, you're in Carabal. Enjoy the nightlife, and the nightlife seems to be like walking through like a market, until one of the locals throws a drink in Jonathan's Yankee face. And then they have like two agents assigned to security, and one of them gets shot with an arrow, and that starts now business is picking up, because now we find Jonathan, he's in an alley fight. When that's over, he finds the other agent dead, and the princess ends up kidnapped. So this was not the fun night on the town that maybe he was hoping for.
No, I mean, the only benefit is that we see that he's pretty much learned how to handle himself fairly well. But other than that, things are going downhill
Yeah,
fast.
I mean, in a martial arts movie, you want to see some fights, and we get one right here. So the next, Mackle tells Jonathan where the princess is being held. It's a fortified mansion, but there's no way you're going to get in there. The hell, I'm not. Jonathan's going for it. He's in love, obviously. So he goes to this place, this mansion. There's trouble. I mean, there's guys popping out of doors, and there's like he can't go anywhere. But fortunately, no one else is there. Between two buildings, there's a pole that he can jump up and swing around and do his gymnastics thing. That's very convenient that was there.
Not his gymnastics, his
Oh, I
Gymkata.
apologize. You're right, Gymkata. But he does manage to get inside. Go figure. And there's like this ugly guy that's right there to greet him. And he's got a gun. And Jonathan just has a fire extinguisher, but that's all he needed. Or he didn't know. The guy didn't have a gun. He had like an axe, because he cuts through. He foolishly hits the fire extinguisher, which then shoots out all of that liquid on him, chemical,
Chemical or
yeah,
whatever it
the
is, yeah.
mixture, and so he's negated. And then some more guys meet him at the top of the stairs, and he just dumps him over the rail. Gets into the
A la Space Mutiny from Mystery Science Theater fame.
Gymkata of Mystery Science Theater fame as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
That's true.
we probably should have watched that one. Yeah, so he gets to the room. There's a guy in there. That's the guy who has the gun. But our quick thinking Jonathan pulls another guy in front of him. That classic thing where the bullets don't go through the person in front of you. But sometimes they do. It just depends how that works out, what you need for the story. But yeah, he gets Ribali. So it was a very short lived kidnapping, and the two skedaddle. I had to use that word skedaddle. I need to use that word in a review. Skedaddle out of the mansion. And now you would think, okay, they're outside. They got out of the mansion, but that doesn't stop the chase, because the chase just keeps on going. And now more guys with guns. Fortunately, one thing I did like is that the cops notice this going on, because in a lot of movies, it's like you wonder, where the hell are the cops?
I was surprised that they actually had cops because, to your point earlier, we didn't know where we were. Could this be in a different time? All of this whole other country going over here, it feels so out of place in the
Yeah.
modern world. It's very primitive. You've got people on pack mules and rafting and going upstream, and there are castles and khans and kings and villagers and all this
Mhm.
stuff. But then we've got cops and flipping cars and guns, and it's like, what are we doing? Where are we? Let's how do we make sense
It's
of all this?
we're in Karabal on the Caspian Sea, and yeah, maybe they're a little bit behind the times. Not as behind the times as the people of Parmistan, but we'll get to there. That's where we're
They want to put a Star Wars satellite there. None of these people have cable
right.
yet.
Is there even electricity to run this building? Paley, did you do your due diligence? I'm wondering. Um, so they do. Oh yeah. So the car, you mentioned the car flipping, because why not? Why wouldn't you have a car flip? But they do make it back to Mackle, and that's where we find out that Mackle is a bastard. He's a traitor. He's about to kill him, but Paley is there, showing up to save the day, keeping Jonathan Rubali, and probably more importantly to Paley, that bastard. The mission is alive. That's
So he did do some due diligence because he showed up
That's
in the nick
true.
of
That's
time.
two bastards for me if people are keeping track like I keep track. The journey does, in fact, involve pack mules and rafts as advertised. So again, Gymkata says something, it happens at shortly thereafter. Um, when they get to the
Kurt Thomas is a
when
man of
they
his
get
word.
to the shores of Parmistan off the river, uh, they're greeted by some of Zamir's mask guards, and it's not a warm welcome at all. Jonathan
Or as I call them, the not
The not
ninjas.
exactly. They look like ninjas on the cover, which is misleading. They look like full on ninjas, but here they look kind of like a ninja and a thuggy guard from Temple of Doom. That's my second Temple of Doom reference.
They basically have
Oh, yeah,
Cobra
a little
Commander's
bit of
hood.
that too. Yep. But yeah, Jonathan wakes up. So obviously he got knocked out during the skirmish. He wakes up in bed, doesn't know where the hell he is. He's being cared for by a homely woman with no tongue. Um,
Okay, so right there, that
yeah,
part, and I've made the Robin Hood comment several
yeah.
times. It literally reminded me of Robin Hood Men in Tights when Tracy Ullman was the witch Latrine,
Mm,
and the whole gag was that she was like the nasty, ugly queen that the sheriff kept going to for like advice and to predict the future and see the future and everything. So like literally, like this whole movie is just reminding me of like I'm feeling like, is this like half a spoof? Because
right.
you're getting like this unintentional, like it's supposed to be a martial arts
Hmm.
adventure, and then you're feeling like it's a medieval times thing, and then it's like you're getting this unintentional comedy. Because I don't think this was meant to be played for
No,
laughs.
no. But it's perfect for it. Um, so this nurse is there. She can't talk because she has no tongue. And that's when he meets Zamir, he being Jonathan. And Zamir just kind of runs down like, okay, you'll meet the Khan tomorrow. There'll be an explanation of the game, a little demonstration of it. Then there'll be a banquet, and then the day after that, that's when the game begins. Jonathan very worried about the princess. Well, she's with her father, of course. Where else would she be? Then was a little bit of a disturbing moment because then Zamir excuses himself, and Jonathan's still in bed, and his nurse like starts like rubbing on his chest, and at first he's like, no, and then he's like, okay, whatever. What? This is where if Chad,
Yeah, like he just
what?
he
Yeah,
gives
what
in.
like gives into what though? What did this woman do to him?
Well, hold on. Should I do my
Please,
Chad
I was gonna
Cruz
say this is
impersonation?
where we needed Chad Cruz. So go do your Chad.
I mean, he already said that she was a tongueless nurse, so really, what good could have happened?
She would have just had to use her. It just been an HJ, is what you're saying. That's what I'm
Howard Johnson.
exactly. So yeah, oh yeah. So then the next day, it's just as he said, but now we get some more familiar faces, Chris, because we get to meet some of the other fighters, Gomez and
Including an American kickboxer with a Latino name this
yeah,
time around.
Gomez, played by the one and only John Barrett, and was it how?
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 Yes.
How are you?
How? How you say?
Played by the one and only Conan Lee of Ninja in the Dragon's Den, Eliminators,
Which you can read about at
both of
bulletproofaction.com.
those.
I love Eliminators. What a great movie Eliminators was. I love that
That's
movie.
probably one we need to cover at some point. And then they also mentioned this Thorg character. So, at some point, probably soon, we'll know.
Is he one of the Star Wars guys?
No, at first I thought they said Thor, just Thor. And I'm like, I don't, are you allowed to? And I'm like, oh no, wait, it's Thorg. G. Um,
I mean, if they wanted to do that, I mean, it is public
that's true.
domain.
And then you'd have had Conan versus Thor in a little bit, which would be interesting. Also, Gomez is like, hey, do you know there's a crazy town around here? What? So,
Hopefully, not the band that sings that terrible Butterfly song from 2001.
oh God, thank you for that. So we're teased about Thorg and Crazy Town. And now it's like, all right, we've got these convicted felons, but they could get their freedom if they win the game. So this is kind of a run through. So the real uh, players of the game get to see how this kind of goes.
So now, not only is the game, not only if you're a visitor to the country, you're forced to play the game, but if you're a convicted felon of some type, you also get to play. So the game really is wider in scope than just like, hey, you've got to prove your worth by coming to this country. Now it's like, hey, you're here and you screwed up, so you've got to play the game to redeem
Yeah,
yourself. So we're kind of taking one plot point and splitting it off into several here.
yeah, and I gotta say these rules are very complex. It's like, oh,
Yeah, you can't kill, but then people are getting killed. Like, it's
it
yeah,
it doesn't make any goddamn sense, basically. Um,
Gymkata.
so the prisoners play the game, but it doesn't end. Does any? I don't think any of them make it past the gorge. Once again, that damn gorge just stops everything. So we go back to town. There's the big banquet, as promised. Khan gives a speech. Zamir and Rubali are like sitting real close, and Zamir has his like pecs out, and he's just having a good old time.
He's
He's
peacocking.
peacocking. Yes, once again, we could use that term. Um, and the after now we learn after the game, there's going to be a royal wedding between Rubali and Zamir. So that's why they were sitting so close. Jonathan chooses to use his time to ask about his dad, which is great. Just what you want to hear about it during a party. Speaking of party, somebody arrives fashionably late. That's Thorg, played by the one and only Bob Schott, who is probably a familiar face to many. Uh, what the hell? I can remember seeing him in it. I'm drawing a blank right now, but he's been in shit. You know something, Chris. You know everything.
That's that's what you're gonna limit to? He's been in
Yeah.
shit?
Tell me what I'm forgetting.
I mean, the first thing that I thought of was that he was in Shoot Fighter, Fight to the Death,
Yeah.
one of my favorites, and one of my all-time favorites, one of the first movies I reviewed at bulletproofaction.com. He was in Don the Dragon Wilson's Blood Fist 3 Forced to Fight and got his ass kicked in the prison laundry. He was the guy they called Weird Willie. He was one of the Aryans. He was one of Rick Dean's henchmen in that film.
All right. Yeah, see, I knew I've seen him in things. I mean, obviously not like huge movies, but that's what I don't watch too many huge movies. Um, so yeah, he's there, and we find out Jonathan is like a Thorg mark. He is so embarrassing. Like, I saw you in Munich, and Thorg just no sells it. It's awesome.
Now, he's a Thorgmark, but this guy is an Olympic athlete, world-class gymnast within the confines of
Yeah,
Gymkata. Does nobody recognize him? Is nobody like, what are you doing here?
no, not in Parmistan.
I guess Parmistan doesn't. Yeah, they don't have an Olympic
They don't have
team.
an Olympic team.
They're not sending anybody out
They
for
don't
the
have
games.
television. They don't know. They don't.
No, they want a satellite, but they have no TV. They're still, going to the bathroom by
Maybe that's
candlelight
how
over
they
here.
sold them on. Like that's how they're going to sell them on. Like, hey, if you let us put our Star Wars early detection satellite here, we can also get you a satellite for Skinamax or something to that nature. HBO.
How ironic that they want this place to be the home of the Star Wars satellite when it looks like an Ewok village.
Ooh.
See, now I knew enough about Star Wars that I could still make
I
that
don't think
reference,
so
even though
though.
I do not like those movies.
Ewoks lived in trees. They they had,
I,
they
you
had
know what? I, I,
wooden buildings. These were like stone. You're off.
I mentioned a long time ago that I was never a big Star Wars fan, but yet people bought me
Yeah.
the toys. And I remember when I was a kid, I had the Ewok Treehouse
Mm-hmm.
playset, but I used it for my GI Joes.
There you go. It is very ironic that basically the movies that ignited the industry that puts food on your table, you don't like it. It's very interesting to me. Uh, eh, Strange. All right, so Samir,
I root for the underdog. What can I say?
I mean, I get it. Zamir sees Jonathan making eyes at his bride to be, and you talked about you thought he was peacocking before. Well, he's pulling that peacock all the way out now because he pops the shirt off and he dazzles everyone with a side demonstration, and then he ends it the punctuation mark at the end, the big exclamation point at the end to send Jonathan a message. And if he didn't get it with the size, he's like, you know, you better,
At this
she's
point,
mine. And Jonathan's response is, put your hardware back in your pants. That's a quality line. Might be his finest line in the entire movie. Might be the best line in the entire movie.
best quote in the film? Yeah, I was gonna say, might be the best quote in the film.
So later that night, Jonathan has his ugly nurse, who may or may not have given him a hand job the day before, show him the way to Rubali, and the two meet outside. And she's basically like, hey, this is a political marriage, this is a tradition. Whoever's like the right hand man of the guy in charge gets to marry his daughter. uh and then again, there's people who, the younger people, are already like kind of rebelling against this. All the, they want to move into the 20th century. They're the ones who want MTV probably off the satellite. So Rubali's
At least they were getting music videos back then.
right, exactly. It was real MTV and an occasional WWE special or WWF special at that point. Rubali doesn't want Jonathan to compete. She's all like, "You're gonna get killed." But Jonathan does make a good point. Like, well, if I now say I'm not gonna compete, they're gonna kill me anyway. So may as well play the game. And if I win it, that's the one surefire way I'll live. And obviously, he's a confident man. Some guards do show up and notice that there's people outside the walls there that shouldn't be, and Jonathan he runs some interference so Rubali can get back to her room. But Zamir knows that something was up. He knows what was going on, so he's like, "Death becomes you, Jonathan Cabot." Not
But you know what? That's the first time in Gymkata where something is said that doesn't happen.
ooh, but see, they've put so much goodwill. They've built up so much goodwill. You're like, "Oh shit, he's going to die." Probably not. Not if you've ever watched an action movie before. Um, Jonathan, and that's so the game has begun, and what a shit start for old Jonathan. I mean, it couldn't go much worse than this. He falls. Does he trip? Does someone trip him? Does he just trip? I mean, how does a gymnast trip?
Maybe it's just performance anxiety.
Mm. And if you have performance anxiety, try Blue Chew. See, this would have been a perfect spot for that.
Nice little
If they would
segue,
have
yeah.
just, if they just sponsor us and give us money. Blue Chew, use code Chad Cruz.
We need our cut of the
Yeah.
chew.
Uh
Use code Gymkata.
oh yeah, that'd be good. Um, try it. It probably won't work, folks, but if just try it.
If you want your pole to look like the one between the two buildings, use code Gymkata for
You
Blue
want a
Chew.
pole vault? You want your special lady to be able to pole vault off of you? Well, we've got something for you, you bastards. There's 3. All right. So yeah, he falls, and then then his hero punts him in the face while he's down.
Yeah, you never want to meet your heroes, kids.
This is what they were talking about. Zamir and his men then, they're supposed to wait for the Khan's signal, but they just go. Like, they almost go immediately. As soon as, or you just go. And the Khan's like, well, you're breaking the rules. I don't think Zamir gives a shit.
No, he's planning to overthrow the Khan. What's he gonna
Yeah,
listen to
why?
him
Yeah,
for?
why is he going to worry about some little rule of these? I mean, the rule. How big do you think the rule book is for this fucking game? With how many bylaws and you probably have to turn. If this happens, it's like a choose your own adventure. This happens, turn to page 8. Okay, kill him. If that doesn't happen, turn to page 9. No, you can't kill him. Well, shut up. We finally see some guys make it across the gorge. So, I mean, we're making some progress in this film. They make it all the way, but Jonathan may have this. It looks like he's going to be like father, like son, because he's making it across. But instead of an arrow, old Zamir pulls out a sword and just cuts the freaking rope. But fortunately,
That's where the gymnastics training shows its face.
exactly, and he's far enough along. He's able to swing and climb up, even though there's a guard there trying to stop him. Again, why is the guard allowed to? I don't. Stupid. All right.
Yeah, wasn't it in the rule that you're not allowed to interfere in the
Right.
game or anything? But all we get is, but I mean, again, it's
Obviously,
Zamir,
yeah.
so
He
is this
must have
just
given him
him?
the high sign across the way, like, get rid of this guy. We're not playing by the rules today. This is going to be the bloodiest version of the game that has ever gamed.
This is possibly, at least as far as abiding by the rules, or at least the normal plot point, the worst version of the world's most dangerous game.
Oh, you're right. You are correct, sir. But speaking of world's most dangerous, if I told you about world's most dangerous parking garages coming to Bulletproof Action, um,
It better include P2, which I wrote
all
about back
right,
at
just
Christmas
settle
time.
down. It's volume 1. It's not going to have every damn movie that had a parking garage in it.
So P2 will be in Volume 2, Volume P2 of World's
Possibly,
Most Dangerous.
indeed. I'll make sure of that. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just do it out of spite and never put it in, just to piss you off. We'll see. So yeah, now we're gonna get Thorg versus How. How? Not too good, I'll tell you why. Because How dies. Thorg straight up kills this man. And I guess that's part of the game too. Obviously, there can only be one winner. Why? Do they ever specify there can only be one winner?
No, because why? I mean, all right, so obviously you've had things where you invite multiple people to play and only one can survive battle royal
Yeah.
style. But when you're having that big banquet, they're all acting friendly to
Right.
each other, not like, hey, by the way, tomorrow I'm going to kick your ass and I'm going to win, or I'm going to try to kill you and win. It's all, I mean, Jonathan's literally going gaga for the guy who's the biggest asshole of
Yep.
them all.
Yeah, and him and Gomez are
So
talking
again,
about
just
Crazy Town and uh,
and then you get all these checkpoints where it's like, one of the non-ninjas is like slashing and swinging a weapon, and then the other one's standing there with the flag, like, go that way, I guess.
this is a dumb game. So yeah,
It's like the kind of game that you play in the schoolyard where you're just making up
make it
the
up.
rules as you go
Yeah,
along.
just so you can win. So Jonathan does catch up. He sees dead Ho. No, a dead How. And then before you know it, we get Jonathan versus Thorg, and but that ends prematurely because, like you said, there's some of these guys are just watching, and then there's other ones shooting arrows at you, and Thorg gets hit with the arrow, so he's kind of incapacitated.
Well, remember when Thorg got hit, they weren't aiming for Thorg. This was Jonathan harkening back to his training, like was it like listen to the wind or
That's
listen for the
right.
sound or whatever? And he heard the arrow coming and ducked, so Thor got it because this was another assassination attempt on Jonathan by Zamir's
Mm,
guys.
that is a good point. Um, and then also to your point, after he survives Thorg, he's like, "Hey Gomez, where are you?" Just shouting out into the wild, and nobody answers. But clearly, I mean, he's like, let's team up, let's be friends in this, let's survive together. Unlike Thorg, who's like trying to murder us. But next stop, they talked about it multiple times. We're going to Crazy Town. Uh, and what a
The Village of the Damned or
it
whatever it was.
was, and what a creepy, like, just the music.
So now we're going into horror movie
Right.
territory
And yeah, the music. It's
because you've got like this dilapidated, smoky
mm-hmm.
village. You've got a guy wearing a fake face on the backside of his
Yep.
head. The creepy guy that that's wearing like a Pope's hospital gown, so when he turns around, his ass
Oh
is out.
yeah.
Um, it was just, uh, I don't know where all of these plot. It's like they took all right, it's the 80s. There's a gymnastics craze. These guys are showing up on like different strokes. They're like, world heroes and stuff like that. We're going to throw one of them into a movie. Everyone's going nuts for like Bruce Lee clones and ninja movies. So we're going to do some martial arts and have guys that look like ninjas but really aren't. And they're going to go to like a secret island like Enter the Dragon. But then we're also going to throw in like this primitive medieval type of thing. But then there's also a horror thing and a romance story. It's like, do you want to be Indiana Jones? Do you want to be Enter the Dragon? Do you want to be the Goonies? What do you want to be, Gymkata? What do you want to be?
All the above, apparently. They checked every box. Yeah, the music just creeped me out. It's like it almost like it was an album that was warped and it was just playing it constantly. A guy cuts his own hand off because his like hand gets stuck to a pipe. So that's the logical way to get out of that situation. There's a dog just drinking a puddle of blood. Uh,
Yeah, it's like, are we in Pet Cemetery?
and
Like,
then
what's
we
going
find
on?
Gomez, and boy, did he die in some horrible way. He just like pinned up against a door, isn't he? Spear.
With the
Yeah,
rake or
something.
whatever you
Yeah,
want to call it.
something right
Yeah.
through. Oh,
The pitchfork type
yes.
thing, the like the American Gothic
Hmm.
looking thing.
Poor Gomez. Um,
And that death was probably more violent than one from Jason Lives. Like, this is a PG or
right.
PG-13,
Oh yeah.
karate movie, and we're watching the guy basically with a sharp implement driven through his throat, pinning him to a door or a wall, when this is supposed to be a gymnastics karate
Oh
movie.
my word. So yeah, but we now know why he didn't respond. Jonathan ends up like in this pig pen, where it's really like just a pig room. Uh, and that's when Thor reappears as well, but only Jonathan is going to make it out of there alive. Thor ends up, I believe he gets a pitchfork as well. It's the implement.
These pig feed.
It's the implement of choice in Crazy Town. But the craziest thing in Crazy Town is the fact that they have a pommel horse like in the middle of it.
Yes, much like there was a pole in between buildings, now as Jonathan fights for his life in this, weird alternate reality, Resident Evil
Yeah.
town, there's a pommel horse that enables him to utilize
He
his skills for
pommels the
survival.
competition,
Oh,
which then goes into this slow motion escape scene, which has the creepy music. And he's like hanging on this off this window. He's jumped up because he's a freaking gymnast. And he's nimble And he gets up there, he's hanging on there, but there's a whole just crowd of people slowly coming down this alley. Like if he drops, he's gonna be crazy food. And then you see a guard, one of the masked guards coming. And it had been so long since I'd seen this. At first, I'm like, is it gonna be that goddamn Paley? Did he show up again? Like, if he's this good, why didn't he just take care of all this business himself? But then I'm like, no, it's not him because he unmasked and it's Colonel Cabot. He did not die.
So Jonathan's mission for revenge is really a rescue mission now. But his dad's rescuing him.
Hmm. That's odd. Back in town, Khan and Rabali are having a talk about Zamir and his bullshit, as the way I have it on these notes. Um, but yeah, the Khan doesn't want to believe that this guy, which you gotta get. I mean, I get that. You don't want to believe like, oh, I've been fooled all this time. I thought he was my friend. I thought he was my right hand man, and he's really been plotting against me this whole time. He doesn't want to believe it. But Ribali is very determined. She's like, I'm going to help Jonathan any way I can. And she doesn't care that her dad is not against that or not for that. Back to the Cabots. They have a little happy reunion, but once again, those pesky arrows come in, and Colonel Cabot gets one right in the back. And he's like, you just go, you got to go on without me. And now we get the big fight that's, I guess, kind of been built up. Obviously, there's a bit of a love triangle going
Well,
here, and
it's the big bad.
right,
The jock versus the underdog, the alpha versus the omega
and that,
or the beta
yeah, that's what we get here,
or
or
whatever.
Beta versus VHS back in '85. Um,
Uh-huh.
it's time for uh for the Jonathan Zamir fight, and this is where Zamir actually does call Jonathan a bastard. So that's the one bastard that they were probably allowed in this PG movie. I don't know. But that's the fourth
John Barrett can take a pitchfork to the
right.
throat, but you
You
get
get
one
one
bastard.
bastard. So that's 4 or 5, maybe 6 at times we've said it on this program. Um, so we have that fight. I don't recall that. I mean, I just watched it. It didn't like jump off the screen at me like, oh, this is a big. This wasn't Revenge of the Ninja on the rooftop.
No, it was not.
This wasn't even any of the awesome China O'Brien fights that we've talked about.
I was just gonna say, yeah, it wasn't any of Richard Norton. He wasn't drop kicking and body slamming people.
Right.
Certainly nothing involving Keith Cook or Cynthia Rothrock here. Just a very basic
Mm-hmm.
brawl. I don't know if that's because of Kurt Thomas's lack of polish. Richard Norton's a pretty skilled
Right.
fighter. You would think that he could carry him to something, to use some wrestling terminology. But yeah, kind of a very underwhelming final battle.
And then we go back to the town, and at this point, the Khan has now come to his senses, and he's ordering the people to rise up on Zamir's mass army. But that all kind of gets interrupted when some guys like, "Hey, they're coming back!" and everybody just like, "Oh!" and they run down the street there, and here's the Cabots. Poor, poor Colonel Cabot.
On
Oh
horseback.
yeah, on horseback. Colonel Cabot on his horse, hunched over because he's got that pesky arrow in his back, and everybody, it's hooray. And then we get the little text on the screen because they probably forgot to wrap this plot hole.
Yeah, we got like the little like epilogue done in, 2 sentences, three
Yeah,
sentences.
we had to fill the plot hole that the Star Wars program did get built in Parmistan in 1985. End credits. Fun. Now that we've talked about this. Now that I've said these words out loud, I think I do now know why Chad Cruz didn't come onto the show. Final thoughts on Gymkata.
It's funny because I have seen this movie countless times. I have a copy on DVD. I remember when it was on HBO all the time as a kid. I remember when it used to be on TBS a lot. So if it was like a Sunday afternoon before WCW or, 10 o'clock at night after a Braves game, I'm talking in the days even before Nitro, I'd be like, oh, Gymkata's on. I'll throw that on. So I've probably seen this movie, just as much as, some of the other movies that we've talked about through the years. And I watched it today for the first time in a while, and I paid more attention to it just to make sure it was fresh so that we could go over it. And it just boggles my mind how I've watched it so many times and just never realized how I just don't love it the way that I love other
Right.
movies. Like, I'm like, what is going on? And I mean, let's be real. I mean, I love a lot of movies that you have mocked me for, that friends have mocked me for here. The Garbage Pail Kids being one of my favorite movies of all time, is probably like the main example I could use. I would watch the Garbage Pail Kids movie 5 times in a row and not watch Gymkata for another 5 years. Um, I really don't know what they were trying to do here. Kurt Thomas, for as great of an Olympic athlete as he was not exactly a fountain of charisma. Richard Norton was the most basic bad guy ever. We didn't get a hell of a lot of his martial arts skills brought to the table. The Khan felt like he should be played by Mel Brooks. Like it felt like, again, it was just a mishmash of ideas thrown out there, which lends itself to being a cult film. But I'm like, I never really felt this way when I was younger. Maybe I never realized it, or maybe I just, took the movie for being the goofy fun that it was. But breaking it down for the podcast, it's kind of like, what the hell
Yeah.
was this? What the hell was Jim Cotta?
I'm going to tell you this. I never saw Gymkata until the Netflix mail you a disc era. And I think that's why I'm like, how the hell did I mean, I remember seeing it at the video store because the video store
Yeah, very famous
the video
cover.
store we went to in Parma, by the way, yeah, it's got a great cover, and they had the wrestling and the martial arts movies all in the same section. So that's usually where I would first frequent. Well, I probably check the new releases, but you'd always go back there, and I'm like, oh, yeah. And I'd always see it. I'm like, and maybe it was the rating. Maybe I was savvy enough at that point, like, how cool is this going to be if it's PG? I've been watching.
I mean, No Retreat, No Surrender was
See, and I
PG.
didn't see that for a long time either. Um, not nearly as long. I mean, that was one I found on a VHS on like the rack at a department store. But Gymkata, I think it must have been the rating because again, I've now seen frickin' I would be getting the R-rated horror movies, checking out frickin' Revenge of the Ninja. We've talked about that. I mean, for both of us, one of the early R-rated movies. I know it was your very first one.
Yeah, I mean, I was 4 when I
So,
watched that. Yeah.
that was like, I'm not gonna watch this crap. It looked cool, but I mean, I'm glad I didn't because I mean, number one, there's not really ninjas in it, but there's ninjas on that poster. Um,
The non-ninjas.
yeah, this is not one so I don't have the nostalgia
No,
for it, and I've always just kind of like, but I mean, it's also just such an oddity. Like I have it in my collection because it is just so odd, and I probably got it for cheap.
so yeah. I
But
mean, that guy with the face on the back of his face, like it looked like Kurt Thomas was kicking the Burger
right,
King. Like it looked like he was in a fight with the Burger King, and then you've got the Khan running around like he stole Nikolai Volkov's hat at the end over
mm-hmm.
there. Um, just a whole. But then you get some violent deaths like Thor getting stabbed by pitchforks and John Barrett. It's like, what are like this is just
It's all over the place.
uh, it. I mean, it's a cult movie, but it's a cult movie not in the sense of why other movies like Garbage Pail Kids, Toxic Avenger, like those are movies that I love that I could rewatch all the time. I watched Gymkata today. I probably will not throw this
Right.
movie on for
Uh,
a good couple of
like
years.
I think I got it for cheap. Um, and then once I got it, I'm like, I reviewed it for the site. I'm like, if I have it, I may as well do something with it. And I don't even remember at that was my rewatch at that point. thinking, oh, this is. I'd have to go back and see what I read about or wrote about it. Um, but yeah, watching it for the podcast, I'm just like, what the hell are we doing? The
And you've got to wonder, I mean, there is no Blu-ray release.
no,
The DVD is not scarce, but I think it's out of print by this point. I think it's still fairly easy to come by, but I don't think they're making any new copies. So this seems ripe for someone like Vinegar Syndrome to make some type of special edition. But as much as I love their product, I mean, I was a day one purchaser of the
right?
China O'Brien set. I've gotten a million
Yeah,
things from them through the years. I would not
no,
spend forty
no.
dollars on some type of super special edition
Well,
of
yeah,
Gymkata.
yeah,
Like I would debate buying it on one of their Black Friday
right,
sales. If it went down to $13, yeah, maybe.
right. Because
Just because I would want
you
to
don't
have
have Kurt
an
Thomas. You
actual
don't have
copy in my
Kurt Thomas
collection.
around anymore to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, he passed away, what,
Not
2021,
yeah, not too
2020?
long
Yeah.
ago. I mean, I guess you could get Richard Norton involved, but yeah, it would definitely it would have to be on a deep discount sale for me to pick up a Blu-ray copy of it. But again, if you're one of those people who absolutely love Gymkata, bless you. I mean, again, like you said, Chris, there's just some movies that speak to people. For you, it's Garbage Pail Kids. For me, it's probably Hercules in New York. I know people hate that movie, but I think it is one of the finest films that I've ever seen in my life. Uh, and I've threatened to do a podcast on that, and it could happen maybe sooner than you think. But yeah,
I feel like I'll be the one joining you for that one.
yeah, Chad wouldn't do that. Ryan will probably do it. Ryan, I think I've converted Ryan into a Hercules in New York fan. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. This is I wouldn't say I would probably watch this before I'd watch Surf Ninjas again, but that's just me.
Oh, see, I think we're on the
Yeah,
flip
I'm
side of
sure we
that one.
are. I'm sure we are. But there it is, folks. Gymkata. It's the Olympics. Kurt Thomas, former Olympian. Hopefully he's not doing flips in his grave with us talking so poorly about his one and only film. Uh, but yeah, there it is. Gymkata. Now, as is customary, before we go, I want to remind you about Bulletproof Action on social media. It's at Bulletproof Pod on X, formerly known as Twitter, and at Bulletproof Action on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. And Toyman, what's going on with you? Anything new? It's been a couple weeks now. Anything new going on at Figures Toy Company?
Nothing new at Figures Toy Company. We're still waiting on the next shipment that should be due in this summer with some of the newer style figures using the Elite style body. So more referees, commentators, announcers. I've dubbed them the supplemental figures, but you can get the MMA ref, the female ref. They are both in stock now. The deluxe casket is in stock. We now officially have all of the Three Stooges: Mo, Larry, Curly, Shemp, Joe Besser, and Curly Joe. The security guard. That slipped my mind. The Elite Style security guard is also in stock, and all three members of the Midnight Express. The big project that we've done in conjunction with Mr. Jim Cornette through the years. He has sold a variety through his website in various combinations and two packs, but you can get the Stan Lane and Bob Eaton in their green tights, and the Dennis Condrey in his black tights. They are all available in the Legends of Professional Wrestling series at figurestoycompany.com right now. And everything else is a wait and see because before you know it, we'll be heading into the fall and we'll be preparing for Christmas. And hopefully, we'll have a lot more new items for you to stick under your Christmas tree.
All right. I will anxiously be waiting to see if you have those ninjas for me this Christmas season. Um, next time,
I mean, there will not be any Jim Cotta non ninjas, I can tell
thank
you
you,
that.
because if you made those, we'd have a problem. Next time, I really don't know what we're gonna do on this podcast. I've been busy, so
Yeah, I've been thinking
uh,
about it. Trying to think of some anniversaries or anything that we can throw out
there
there.
it is anniversary. There's been some talk about maybe a special guest or two joining us, but then that's dangerous because that's one more human that we have to coordinate a schedule with. But we'll try to make some things happen. And if none of those things happen, it's going to be Hercules in New York, and everybody could just deal with it. Now, do you have anything else before we go, Chris?
I have nothing else to add other than the fact that you did mention surf ninjas. So one of the things that I've had in consideration, which you might see very soon. I know I've got a couple of actionversary things planned or assigned. In your
That is
case,
correct,
you give
sir.
me a little heads up on certain things. But I've been rewatching the old ABC series Sidekicks, which was Disney's venture into the martial arts, which starred Ernie Reyes Jr., who was also the star of Surf Ninjas. So, if not during Actionversary, then at some point, possibly in September,
That's right.
you could see coverage of the episodes that I've been able to dig up online and talk about some of the episodes from that
That's right.
series.
We're celebrating 10 years, but we're gonna go for the 11th. So we're gonna need content come September 1st. Oh, actually, I think I do have some, but it doesn't matter. Don't worry about what I'm talking about. It's uh, yeah. I don't think I have anything other than again Actionversary. It starts up August 1st. Delta Force 2, uh, World's Most Dangerous Parking Garages. Toyman's got something. Maybe a little what if action.
I was gonna say one of my favorite things to do is what if. I've done several that were inspired by some Canon Films movies. You know, I had done What If Canon went through with their Spider-Man project, and what if they had done Masters of the Universe 2, which eventually morphed into Van Damme's Cyborg. But this time around, we're gonna go with a what if focusing on another favorite studio of ours and see what would have happened if they were responsible for one of the biggest blockbuster franchises of
Ooh,
all
what a
time.
teaser. What a teaser. And again, the big one, the big 10th year anniversary post will be a Bruceploitation countdown. Uh, really something that I'm looking forward to. Got a lot of people. I've got a lot of people coming in with their lists, and we're going to put those lists together and come up with the best countdown we could possibly come up with. Old school kung fu. We know we've got a lot of old school kung fu fans out there. BulletproofAction.com. Stay tuned right here for more of the Bulletproof Podcast.